Your story is not over. God is crafting an epic win for you. Maybe you've heard this phrase before. Perhaps it was on a bumper sticker, a social media post, or whispered as encouragement by someone who saw you struggling. But let me tell you something tonight. Something that needs to settle not just in your ears, but deep into the marrow of your bones. Your story isn't over. I don't care where you've been, what you've lost, who has walked away, or how many nights you cried alone. If you're still breathing, God is still writing. There are moments in life when everything seems to be collapsing, like the structure you've built your hope on is crumbling, brick by brick. You thought you were doing everything right. You showed up, you gave your best, and still the doors closed, the relationship shattered, the sickness came, the anxiety rose, and suddenly you found yourself staring at the ashes of something you thought was forever. But let me tell you something real. Ashes are not the end. In fact, in the hands of God, they are often the beginning, the start of something beautiful, something deeper, something forged in fire and refined by grace. You see, we serve a God who does not waste pain. He doesn't look at your heartbreak and shrug. He doesn't see your depression and decide you're too far gone. He doesn't watch your failures and say, "That's it for them." No. He leans in closer. He gathers your shattered pieces with a tenderness you can't even fathom, and he begins to rebuild. Not just patching up, not just masking, but rebuilding, transforming, redeeming. Maybe you've been in a season of silence, where you pray but feel nothing, where you try to hear from God, but all you get is static. I've been there. And it's in those quiet, still places that we start to wonder, has he forgotten me? Let me promise you, he hasn't. Just because the author is silent doesn't mean the story has ended. Sometimes the most critical parts of a story are written in invisible ink. You don't see it at first. You don't understand it while you're living it. But God is setting the stage, aligning the right people, the right timing, the right breakthrough. And when it comes, when it finally breaks open, you'll understand why the wait was necessary, why the silence was sacred, why the delay was not denial, but preparation. Think about every great story you've ever loved, every hero, every underdog, every comeback. None of them had it easy. Every one of them faced loss, betrayal, fear, doubt. But what sets them apart is that they didn't stop in the middle. They kept going. And if you're in the middle of your own battle, your own chapter that feels more like a battlefield than a blessing, I want to urge you, don't close the book. Don't put down your pen. Don't let today's sorrow define tomorrow's possibility. What feels like the end might just be the plot twist. And I promise you, God's plot twists are legendary. You might feel like everything you've built is gone. The dream you once held with so much passion now feels like a cruel joke. But dreams aren't always dead when they look buried. Sometimes they're just planted. There's a big difference. Death ends a thing. Planting begins it. When something is planted, it disappears for a while. It goes into darkness. It's surrounded by pressure and uncertainty. But inside, beneath the surface, transformation begins. Roots dig deep. Growth takes shape, and at the right time, it breaks through the surface stronger than before. You are not buried. You are planted. And God is cultivating something in you that this world isn't ready for yet. I know that right now, some of you are walking through grief so heavy it threatens to suffocate you. Some of you are battling anxiety that robs you of peace, joy, and sleep. Some of you are facing rejection that cuts deeper than words can express. But hear me, what you're walking through isn't the end. You were made for more, and God is not done. In fact, He's just getting started. The enemy would love for you to believe it's over. He wants you to believe the pain is pointless, but the devil doesn't get to write your ending. God does, and he specializes in resurrection. Have You've forgotten that the same God who parted seas, calmed storms, and raised the dead is the same God holding you right now. He hasn't changed. His power hasn't faded. His compassion hasn't dried up. And his promises haven't expired. They still stand. His word is still true. And he still has a plan for you. A plan not to harm you, but to prosper you, to give you hope and a future. When you feel stuck in a chapter that doesn't make sense, trust the author. You don't need to understand the plot to trust his pen. His timing is perfect. His character is flawless. And his love for you is immeasurable. He's crafting a win so epic that when it unfolds, you won't be able to take credit for it. People will look at your life and say, "That had to be God." You may have started in brokenness, but you're not finishing there. You may have come from dysfunction, but that doesn't disqualify you from destiny. You may have been written off by others, but you've never been written off by God. He sees you, not the polished version you show others, not the mask you wear. He sees the real you, the scared you, the ashamed you, the uncertain you. And he still chooses you, still loves you, still calls you his. Some of you have been holding on to regret so tightly that your hands are bleeding. You've been defining yourself by past mistakes, past relationships, past wounds. But God doesn't see you through the lens of your failures. He sees you through the lens of the cross, through the lens of grace, through the lens of purpose. You are not what you did. You are not what happened to you. You are not what others said about you. You are what he says. You are redeemed, chosen, loved. I know you may not feel it. Faith isn't always about feelings. Sometimes faith is about standing up with shaking knees, walking forward with blurry vision, and trusting that even if you can't see the road ahead, the one guiding you does. And he doesn't just see the road, he built it. He knows the way. He is the way. This is not where your story ends. This is the valley before the mountaintop. This is the night before the sunrise. This is the silence before the symphony. You are not stuck. You are being prepared. You are being equipped. You are being strengthened. Everything you've walked through, even the stuff you'd rather forget, God is weaving it into the tapestry of your victory. Nothing is wasted in his hands. Not your tears, not your time, not your trauma. All of it has purpose. So rise up, not because it's easy, not because you feel strong. Rise because the story isn't over. Rise because there's more in you than you've even discovered yet. Rise because the God who called you is faithful to complete what he started. He didn't bring you this far to abandon you. He didn't invest so much in your survival just to watch you sink. Now you've got more chapters to live, more battles to win, more love to give, more purpose to pursue. And when that day comes, the day when the breakthrough breaks through, when the healing is complete, when the promise is fulfilled, you'll look back and realize none of it was wasted. None of it was random. All of it had purpose. All of it was leading you to this moment, to this win, to this testimony. So don't you dare quit. Don't you dare settle. Don't you dare believe the lie that says it's too late, that you're too broken, too far gone, too tired, because you're not. You are exactly where God can work with you. And he's already begun. Your story is not over. The ink is still wet. The pages are still turning. And the author, he's not finished. He's not anxious. He's not confused. He's not pacing the floor wondering how to fix your mess. He's crafting an epic win, one that will blow your mind, one that will silence your critics, one that will make you lift your hands in awe and say, only God could have done this. So breathe deep, stand tall, walk forward and believe again, hope again, dream again. Because your story is not over. God's crafting an epic win, and you're about to live it. No matter how broken, lost, or confusing your current chapter feels, it is not the end. If you're still breathing, then the author is still working. Your life is still in progress, and the ending is not defeat. It's divine victory. It's easy to forget that truth when you're standing in the middle of pain, when all you can see is what's falling apart, not what's being built. You might feel like everything you were holding onto has slipped through your fingers. Dreams that didn't work out, relationships that ended, prayers that seemed unanswered. But the truth is, the story doesn't stop in the dark moments. In fact, those moments are often where God writes the most important lines. God never promised that every part of your journey would be easy or clear. He didn't promise a straight line from where you are to where you're going. But what he did promise is that he would never leave you, never forsake you, and never abandon the work of his hands. And you, friend, are his handiwork. That means your life matters. Every part of it. Even the pieces you wish you could erase. Even the mistakes, the failures, and the regrets. God sees it all, and he still chooses to keep writing. There are days when the silence feels heavy, when it seems like heaven is quiet and God is distant. You might look around and wonder why everyone else seems to be moving forward while you're stuck in the same place, but progress isn't always loud. Growth doesn't always look like movement. Sometimes the most significant transformation happens when nothing on the outside seems to change. God is working behind the scenes in ways you can't see and may never fully understand. And while it may feel like you've been forgotten, know this: the author has not put the pen down. When an artist creates a masterpiece, there are times when it looks like chaos before it begins to take shape. To someone passing by, it might look like a mess of brushstrokes, but the artist knows what he's doing. He has a vision for the end result. He sees the beauty that hasn't yet been revealed. That's exactly how God works in your life. You may only see the mess, the unfinished parts, the chapters that make no sense, but God sees the whole story. He sees where this is going, and he is faithful to bring it to completion. Sometimes we get stuck because we believe our worst moments define the whole narrative. We let shame, guilt, or disappointment trick us into thinking the story is over. But God is the redeemer of time, the healer of hearts, and the author of comebacks. There's no mistake so big that it disqualifies you from what he's still planning. There's no detour so far off that he can't write it back into the journey. That's who he is. He doesn't throw away stories, he rewrites them with grace. It's not just about surviving the hard seasons. It's about trusting that they are part of something bigger. You don't need to understand everything right now. You don't need all the answers. All you need is the courage to keep turning the page, even when it's hard, because the author of your story is good. He's wise, he's intentional, and he finishes what he starts. You may not know what tomorrow holds. You may not know how the current situation is going to resolve, but you do know this: your story isn't over. You're still here. You're still breathing. That means God still has something for you to do, something for you to become, something for you to receive. Every heartbeat is proof that the story continues. And if God is the one writing it, you can be certain that the ending will be worth the wait. So don't give up in the middle. Don't judge the story before it's finished. Keep trusting. Keep showing up. Keep hoping even when it feels easier to shut down. Because the author has a plot twist you can't see coming. And it's better than anything you could have written on your own. Your life, no matter how it looks right now, is still under construction by the hands of a God who never fails. The ink hasn't dried. The story is still unfolding, and the best pages are still ahead. What feels like loss, silence, or delay is often preparation. God doesn't waste your pain. He uses it to strengthen, deepen, and refine you for what's ahead. The waiting, the heartbreak, and the setbacks are shaping the win he's planning. It can be hard to see that when you're in the middle of it, when the ground feels shaky under your feet, and everything you thought was certain begins to slip away. It can feel like life is punishing you, like you're being singled out or forgotten. But the truth is far deeper and far more hopeful than what your emotions might tell you. Pain is not a sign that God has turned his face away. It's often the very space where he's doing his most transformative work. Preparation isn't always comfortable. In fact, most of the time, it's not. It stretches you, tests you, and pushes you beyond what you thought you could handle. But that stretching, that breaking, is doing something important. It's clearing space for strength you didn't know you had. It's pressing your roots deeper into faith, character, and resilience. The kind of victory God wants to bring into your life isn't built on ease. It's built on endurance. It's not built in the spotlight. It's built in the shadows, in the hidden places where nobody sees you but God. Sometimes it takes pain to shake us free from what's been limiting us. Sometimes it takes disappointment to redirect us to something greater. That heartbreak you didn't ask for. That delay that made no sense. That door that slammed in your face. All of it is part of a process. It may not be the path you would have chosen, but it's the one that's forming you into who you're meant to be. And in the end, you won't just be stronger, you'll be wiser, humbler, and more rooted in what truly matters. There's something about suffering that strips away the superficial. It forces you to confront what's real, what's lasting, and what's worth holding on to. When everything is going well, it's easy to put your trust in things that can't. Carry the weight of your soul, your job, your status, other people's approval. But pain shows you what those things really are. It reveals what's unsteady and leads you back to the one who never changes. In that way, pain becomes holy ground. Not because it's good, but because God meets you in it. The waiting seasons, those long stretches where nothing seems to be moving, can be the hardest of all. But they are not wasted. That waiting is not passive, it's active. God is working in you even when you feel stalled. Just like a seed that's been planted underground, growth is happening long before you see the evidence. Roots are forming, foundations are being laid. Your character is being shaped so that when the blessing comes, you're ready to carry it well. You may feel like you're in a wilderness right now, wandering without clear direction, wondering if anything good could possibly come from what you're walking through. But wilderness seasons are not abandonment, they are preparation. God led Moses into the wilderness before calling him to lead a nation. He led David through years of hiding before placing him on a throne. He led Jesus into the wilderness before launching his ministry. If you're in a hard place, you're in good company. And more importantly, you're not alone. This pain has purpose. It's preparing you for what's ahead. Not just so you can survive it, but so you can thrive in it. So that when you step into the next chapter of your life, you're not shaken by every storm. So that you're grounded, tested, and strengthened. The setbacks you've experienced are not signs that you've failed. They're signs that God is refining your story. He's aligning things behind the scenes. He's cutting off what can't go with you and building the endurance you'll need for the greater calling. It's hard to see the big picture while you're still in the middle of the canvas. It's hard to believe there's beauty coming when all you feel is brokenness. But if you can trust Him with your pain, you'll see that none of it is wasted. God is not punishing you. He's preparing you. He's getting you ready for something greater than what you would have settled for on your own. And when that moment comes, when the breakthrough arrives, you'll realize the struggle shaped you for the strength you now carry. So don't despise the process. Don't give up in the pressure. Let God finish what He's doing in you. Your pain is not a full stop. It's a setup. It's God's hands on your life, molding and shaping you into someone ready to walk into the win He's been, preparing all along. When everything feels dark and hidden, remember seeds grow in darkness. You may feel unseen or forgotten, but God is growing something powerful beneath the surface. Breakthrough comes after roots are established. That truth can be difficult to hold on to when you're in a season where nothing makes sense. When doors close unexpectedly, when prayers seem to go unanswered, when your efforts feel unnoticed and your faith feels thin. In moments like that, it's tempting to believe you've been buried, forgotten, cast aside. But what if you haven't been buried at all? What if you've actually been planted? Being planted and being buried might look the same on the outside. Both are dark, hidden, and quiet. but the purpose behind them is entirely different. Burial is final. Planting is intentional. Burial marks the end of something. Planting marks the beginning. When God plants you, it may feel like isolation, but it's really preparation. It may look like delay, but it's really development. And even when you can't see the growth is happening. Think about how seeds work. Before anything breaks through the soil, a seed has to undergo a transformation. It has to crack open, stretch, and change in order to become what it was always meant to be. That change doesn't happen in sunlight. It happens in the dark, in silence, in the unseen places. Just because no one sees what's happening in your life right now doesn't mean nothing is happening. God does his best work in hidden seasons. He doesn't need an audience to perform miracles. He doesn't need visibility to bring about victory. He needs your surrender, your trust, and your willingness to remain in the soil while he works. Remaining. Planted requires faith. It means choosing to stay rooted when everything in you wants to give up. It means choosing to believe that just because it's dark doesn't mean it's over. Darkness is not your enemy if you know what it's producing. Growth doesn't always look like motion. Sometimes growth looks like stillness, like being held in a quiet space until your roots are deep enough to support what's coming next, and the roots matter more than you think. Before a tree can grow tall, its roots must grow deep. If the roots aren't strong, the tree won't be able to stand when storms come. It might shoot up quickly, but it won't last. That's why God takes his time with you. He's not rushing to impress anyone. He's developing something that can last. He's building character, integrity, humility, and strength. He's anchoring your faith in places where no one else can see so that when the breakthrough comes, and it will, you'll be able to handle it. So if you feel forgotten, unseen, or overlooked, remind yourself, God hasn't forgotten you. You're not on the shelf. You're not being punished. You're planted, and you're being prepared for something bigger than you can see right now. People might not notice your growth, but God does. People might not celebrate your patience, but heaven does. Stay planted, stay faithful. Trust the process even when it feels slow. There will be a moment when what's been happening in the dark finally breaks into the light. There will be a moment when the roots give way to the sprout, when the breakthrough pierces through the soil and everyone sees what God was building all along. But even then, it won't be about the applause. It will be about the journey, about what was formed in secret that now bears fruit in public. Don't underestimate what God can do in your hidden season. Don't curse the soil that's feeding your roots. What you're going through now isn't the end. It's the beginning of something beautiful, something lasting. You don't have to force your way out of the dark. You just have to stay connected to the one who planted you. He knows when it's time for you to rise. He knows the timing, the season, the environment. And when that moment comes, no one will be able to stop the growth he brings. Until then, keep showing up, keep praying, keep trusting, keep watering your faith with obedience, even when it's hard. You are not buried. You are planted. And what God has planted, he will bring to life at the right time, in the right way, for the right purpose. Your mistakes, your failures, and your wounds don't cancel your calling. God sees beyond your past and calls you by your future. What others count out, he counts in. Grace gives you a new name and a fresh start. That truth is often the most difficult to accept because we tend to believe that what we've done or what's been done to us has the final say. We walk around with the weight of our worst moments hanging over us, convinced that they define who we are. But God never defines you by your past. He defines you by his purpose, by his love, and by the identity he placed in you before your first breath. People will remember your mistakes, but God remembers your potential. People may look at your failures and disqualify you in their minds, but God sees the lessons, the growth, and the purpose he can pull from even the most broken places. There is no mistake that caught him off guard. There is no wound too deep that his healing can't reach. What looks like a mess to others is raw material in his hands, and he specializes in turning brokenness into beauty. Your past may have shaped your journey, but it does not define your identity. The world loves labels: divorced, addicted, failed, broken, unworthy. But those labels are not from God. He doesn't look at you through the lens of shame or regret. He sees you through the lens of redemption. He sees what he created you to be, not just what you've become. He sees your potential when you only see your pain. He sees your purpose, even when all you feel is disqualification. There are countless examples in Scripture where God chose people with complicated, painful, and even shameful pasts to accomplish incredible things. Moses was a murderer, yet God chose him to lead a nation. David committed adultery and arranged a man's death, yet he was called a man after God's own heart. Paul persecuted the church, yet he became one of its greatest apostles. If God only used perfect people, nothing would ever get done. He doesn't choose the qualified, he qualifies the chosen. It's not that your past is irrelevant, it's just that it's not the whole story. Your past is a chapter, not the conclusion. God can take every mistake, every regret, every painful decision, and use it to point you towards something greater. That's the power of grace. It doesn't just forgive, it transforms. It doesn't just cover your failures, it redefines your future. When God steps into your story, he doesn't pretend the past didn't happen. He redeems it. He uses it to bring wisdom, compassion, and strength that you couldn't have developed any other way. Some of the most powerful people are those who've walked through the darkest valleys and come out still believing, still hoping, still loving. Not because they never failed, but because they refuse to let failure be the end of their story. That can be you. You don't have to wear shame like a name tag anymore. You don't have to keep replaying the worst moments of your life as if they hold the final word. They don't. God does. You are not disqualified. You are deeply loved. You are fully known, and you are still called. God's plans for you have not been revoked. His promises haven't expired. He still has work for you to do, places for you to go, people for you to impact. But first, you have to believe that grace really is enough. You have to believe that what Jesus did on the cross didn't just make salvation possible. It made restoration available, not just for someone else, but for you. Don't let guilt or fear silence your voice or shrink your calling. Don't disqualify yourself from the very thing God wants to use you for. The enemy wants to keep you trapped in the past, so you never step into the future. But God is saying, come forward, walk in freedom. You're not who you were. And that's the truth. You are being made new, day by day, moment by moment. So let go of the labels. Let go of the fear. Let go of the lies that say you're too far gone. If God says you're still chosen, still loved, still usable, then believe him. Your past is not your prison. It's the place God launches redemption from. Your best days are not behind you. They are ahead of you. And your past, no matter how heavy, cannot cancel what God is still planning to do through you. You don't need to understand every part of your journey to trust the one who holds the pen. Even when the story feels uncertain, God's character is constant. He sees the full picture when you only see one page. That's the very essence of faith. Not having all the answers, not seeing the whole map, but still choosing to follow, still choosing to believe that the one writing your life knows exactly what he's doing. It's not blind optimism. It's rooted confidence in a God whose nature does not shift with your circumstances. We often want clarity before we take the next step. We want the plan laid out neatly, the outcome assured, before we commit our hearts to trust. But faith doesn't work like that. Faith isn't about seeing, it's about believing. It's about stepping forward even when the path ahead is foggy, even when you feel like you're walking through chapters of pain, confusion, or silence. Faith is believing that just because this page hurts doesn't mean the story has lost its purpose. Sometimes we read a chapter of our lives and wonder how anything good could come from it. We're tempted to put the book down altogether, to assume that this low point defines the whole narrative. But what if the hard chapter is not the conclusion, but the setup? What if the very thing you're walking through now, the delay, the loss, the unanswered question, is building something in you that the next chapter will reveal? We forget that every powerful story has tension. Every good story has moments that don't make sense until you get to the end. And in the same way, God writes with eternal perspective, not temporary ease. He's not interested in just making your story neat. He wants it meaningful. God is not obligated to explain every move he makes. And yet, he is still trustworthy. That's what makes faith such a powerful act. It declares, even if I don't understand this chapter, I trust the author. Not because you know how everything will play out, but because you know who he is. His past faithfulness becomes the anchor for your present uncertainty. If he's carried you through before, why would he stop now? If he's written beauty from brokenness once, why not again? When you read a novel, you don't judge the whole story based on one chapter. You trust that the author is weaving something that will come together. That what doesn't make sense now will become clear later. In the same way, God sees where all the threads connect. He knows what he's setting up in this moment that will unfold in the next. What you think is delay might be divine timing. What feels like a setback might actually be the groundwork for a greater move of purpose in your life. One of the most difficult parts of faith is waiting. Not because waiting is painful on its own, but because we don't always know why we're waiting. We want movement. We want resolution. But sometimes God slows the story to strengthen the foundation. He pauses the pace to build character, resilience, and deeper dependence on him. In the waiting, he's not inactive. He's intentional. And if you can trust him with the slow chapters, you'll be ready for the ones where everything shifts. There will be times when you feel forgotten, when you pray and hear nothing, when you ask and receive no immediate answer, but silence does not equal absence. Delay does not mean denial, and uncertainty does not mean chaos. Faith means you lean into who God is, not into how you feel. It means you trust the author more than you trust your own interpretation of the moment. You don't have to see what's coming next to be confident that it's good. Because when God writes your story, goodness and mercy are built into every twist, every turn, even when the logic of it escapes you. And here's the thing, God's character has never changed. He's still good, still sovereign, still writing redemption into every life that will let him. He doesn't panic when your circumstances shift. He's not thrown off by your detours. He's not overwhelmed by your doubt. He welcomes your questions, your weakness, your mess, and still says, I've got this. Just trust me. You can hand him the pen, because he's already written eternity, and he has no intention of letting your story fall apart. So when you're in a chapter you don't understand, remind yourself that the author does. When you can't see the purpose, trust his perspective. Keep turning the page, keep walking by faith, and keep believing that the story isn't over yet. What feels like a confusing middle will one day become a testimony of how faithful God really was. God is crafting a victory that will make sense of everything you've endured. Your story ends in triumph, not tragedy. And when the wind comes, you'll know it was all for a purpose greater than you imagined. That truth may seem distant when you're standing in the middle of hardship, staring down the weight of disappointment, betrayal, or loss. It may feel impossible to believe when the pressure is high and hope feels low. But no matter what your current chapter looks like, you can be sure of this. The author of your life doesn't leave stories unfinished, and he doesn't write endings in defeat when he's already declared your victory. Life is full of battles. Some we expect, others we never see coming. And some of those battles go on longer than we thought we could endure. But just because the fight is fierce doesn't mean it's for nothing. The struggles, the nights you cried yourself to sleep, the seasons where nothing made sense, they all become part of the foundation for what God is building. He wastes nothing. Every tear, every delay, every moment of suffering has meaning in His hands. He is not only aware of what you're going through, He's using it to shape something beautiful. Sometimes we assume that if God is for us, life should be smooth. But the truth is, being in a battle doesn't mean God has left you. It means He's preparing you. Some victories require struggle. Some breakthroughs only come after resistance. You don't get stronger without pressure. You don't grow without being stretched. That's why the fight doesn't mean failure. It means you're getting closer. It means you're moving towards something that's worth fighting for. And the fact that the battle has been intense is often the very proof that what's on the other side is powerful. Think of the stories in Scripture. Joseph in the pit and the prison before the palace. David running for his life before sitting on the throne. Ruth in the fields before stepping into her destiny. None of their stories made sense in the middle. All of them could have looked like tragedies if you stopped reading too soon. But God wasn't finished, and He's not finished with you either. If the story isn't good yet, it just means it's not the end. God is not a passive observer in your life. He is actively working even when you don't feel it. He's aligning the right people, the right timing, the right doors, and the right outcomes for His glory and your good. The pain you felt, the prayers you whispered in desperation, the times you got up when everything in you wanted to quit. He's seen it all. He's counted every moment, and He's using each one. You may not see how it's all coming together, but He does. And when the ending unfolds, it will be more beautiful than anything you could have written for yourself. There will come a time when you'll look back and realize that what almost broke you actually built you. You'll see that what you thought was a delay was God's protection. What felt like rejection was divine redirection. The tears you cried watered the soil of something new. And all the while, God was preparing you not just to receive the victory, but to carry it with wisdom, strength, and grace. That's why you can't give up now. That's why the fight is worth it. There is more ahead than what's behind. What you've lost will not compare to what God will restore. What's been hard will not outweigh what He's preparing. And when it comes, when the breakthrough arrives, you'll understand why the process was necessary. It wasn't punishment, it was preparation, it wasn't pointless, it was part of a promise being fulfilled. Victory doesn't always come in the way we expect, but it comes. And when it does, it silences every lie that said you wouldn't make it. It quiets every voice that told you to give up. It confirms that the fight was worth every ounce of effort. Because God isn't just writing a story where you barely survive. He's writing one where you overcome, where your scars become stories of grace, where your pain becomes purpose, where what was meant to destroy you ends up strengthening you. So keep going. Keep praying, keep fighting. Don't let discouragement steal what God is still developing. You're closer than you think. Your ending is not one of tragedy, shame, or loss. It's a story of redemption, of grace, of triumph. And when it unfolds, you'll know without a doubt every moment was leading to this. Every struggle was shaping something sacred, and every battle was worth the victory God had planned all along. Subscribe to the channel, like and share, so that this video reaches as many people as possible. God bless.